All right, here we are. We're fucking live. Mike Klein, what's going on, bro? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, dude? Um, I'm just recovering from our venture in the woods at Winter Forge.
Bro, did you get some rest yet or what?
Yeah, I got some rest, but man, I'm still hurting.
That fucking dude, that Winter Forge kicked my ass, dude. Like,
Yeah,
it had nothing on the FTXs we've done at One Shepherd, man.
yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of tough FTXs there, but having that environmental factor, like, and then all the additional gear that you're having to utilize just to not die. Um,
Yeah.
it takes a toll on you. It definitely takes a toll on you. I mean, I remember like I was doing a lot of guard duty there, and I should have brought more layers. I was having to jog in place to try to just keep the blood flowing and not freaking lose any appendages. And
Bro, me too, man. I felt like an
yeah.
asshole because, like, you can't know until you do it and go out there and train. But, like, then I felt like an asshole for not bringing enough layers. Like,
Well, I was I actually did the event. I went into the event injured right out of the gate. I'm like, I'm not freaking missing this thing. Yeah, I don't want to be the weak link. But I know at the end of the day, I'm going to get more out of it going to this event than saying, oh, well, I ain't at 100%, so I'm not going to show up.
right.
I think it's
And it,
better to just freaking show up and get what you can get than make an excuse, or or missing out on something because you're at 80% instead of 100.
and it turns out you weren't the weak link anyway. So, like, all good. Guys, for those of you who don't know, all right, we got Mike Klein joining us. Mike Klein's YouTube channel is Small Team Supply. And this is a badass channel. I really enjoy watching his videos. He's really up on the technical stuff as far as firearms. And, he also is a cadre over at One Shepherd. So he, on my first base warrior basic course, he was Mike, you were cadre, you were what, our APL assistant patrol leader? Something like that.
Are you talking about for Warrior Basic? I know I was
Warrior,
working a lot with Cole,
yeah,
and we were double teaming a lot of the
that was it.
instructions out there in the field.
Yeah, so you were my instructor when I went through Warrior Basic, and it was cool, man. And we afterwards we didn't really like we talked a bit, but then afterwards, after the FTX, the final training exercise or the field training exercise, we started talking about jujitsu and World War II combatives, and we were like, oh, okay, like you get it, you're cool. So
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%, dude. Like we get out of the field, we're tired AF, and we get a little bit of steak in us, maybe a little beer in us, and then we start doing stuff that our bodies have not recovered yet. And but it was all good, man. Like we were like in the freaking zone of combatives. Like I would show you some wrestling stuff, and you're like, well, what about this, type thing, and you showed me a little thing. And I remember one of your criticisms of it towards me, like, even though I have these skills, a lot of it has to do with the training I've done, in that it's not necessarily lethal hand-to-hand combatives. It's been mainly geared towards sport, wrestling and BJJ, a little bit of boxing in there too. But again, that's not 100% weaponized, or it wasn't 100% weaponized at the time. Later, I went and I trained with, Craig Douglas, and I got a little bit more of that, weaponized mindset in a grappling situation. But yeah, it's one of those traps you kind of fall into sometimes by doing too much sparring. If you there's certain moves that you just don't, you don't slap on a freaking rear naked choke like a crazy person, and then walk back and, you know, basically lift him up off the ground by his neck because you don't want to be the freaking jerk at the gym.
Yeah,
But you know, I mean, if you can do that to some guy, you know, in a altercation and it's merited, you know, warranted, yeah, do that.
you bring up a really good point there, man, about getting too used to being polite and sparring. That's one thing I've always found that holds me back. And if I can even trace it all the way back to when I was a one stripe or no stripe white belt, I was always just afraid of hurting people in training too bad. Because I've been doing combatives for a while, you know, like serious combatives. And then going into jujitsu, I didn't want to like accidentally pop someone's eardrum or whatever, you know, or even just yoke them too bad and then like, you know, hurt their throat. So, um, how do you think we go about like shifting our mindset? And then once we are in actual violent like street fight, like can there be a gear that switched or is it just take like what some psychological preparation?
Well, you know, I think in a lot of regards, especially when you're in an altercation, your body is just going to go on autopilot, so to speak. All your honed reflexes and moves are going to be what you're going to do just based off of the timing and whatnot. And your selection process is going to be simplified based off of what you've had the most success with in the past. So it's kind of a tough spot because you can't build those muscle memory skills without, you know, sparring hard with guys, drilling them hard with guys. And so that's, you know, so you're kind of in some regards in a rock and a hard place in that regards, because the best way to hone those skills is through, you know, not killing your training partner. But at the same token, you know, that's the best way to I mean, you're not necessarily getting the best tool for the job at hand if you need to finish the fight quickly, so to speak.
And guys, for everyone's information out there, just a little background on Mike. Mike wrestled all through high school. He even wrestled in college. He is a very accomplished jiu-jitsu player. What's the last stripe that you had on your blue belt?
I'm just a blue belt.
Yeah, well,
I
you're a
like I
very
said, I did a
accomplished
lot of MMA training for a very
yeah.
long time. I think I did like 6 or 7 years, but there's no real ranks or anything in that. And then I started doing jujitsu just to kind of rank up whatever in that regards. But I never really had, I mean, I hate to say it, but I never had really 100% respect for just pure jujitsu because there's, you know, and I say that, you know, knowing that maybe the gyms I was going to was more of a sport gym than a self-defense gym, because there are ones out there that are more self-defense oriented. But you know, you're in some regards, you're kind of locked into what's available to you. So, you know, that's where you need to go above and beyond of what you're just getting there at that particular school.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, man. The gyms that I've trained at and that I currently train at, it's just the way that it is. They're more sport oriented. You know, you want your school to win competitions. You want your guys to do well against other jujitsu players. And unfortunately, that takes a lot of sporty, you know, kick flippy bullshit, head over the freaking heels type stuff. But if you can find a serious like fighting, street fighting jujitsu gym, they're rare. You know, they are out there, but I haven't found too many instructors that, you know, will throw a knife into the mix, a training knife, you know, out of nowhere or whatever. Um,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
can find
exactly.
one,
And
go for it.
if you look at like the origins of jiu-jitsu, a lot of it was street orientated.
Oh yeah,
And a lot of the, you know, early jiu-jitsu when it came over here was still that street oriented where, you know, is heavy top pressure, control of the hands, control of the upper body and whatnot. And leg locks was kind of something as a last resort. Now you see the sports and that's like, you know, people just plop their butts on the ground and crab walk towards the other guy trying to get a freaking ankle. And, you know, I mean, the problem with doing that is, in a street fight, the best way to get out of a freaking ankle lock,
Enlighten us.
draw a freaking weapon and start going to town on him, or popping rounds at his face.
Yeah.
Because he left your whole, you carry your weapons around your waist and, in your hands and whatnot. And those are fully accessible. So if you're armed, you got plenty of tools at your disposal.
That's my dream right there, man, is I would love to open up a gym where we do a lot of grappling based stuff, but it's all with the street in mind. I got to rank up before I can do that, but it's somewhere down the line that I'd be very interested in doing. Jen's my girlfriend. She's watching now. She says, it was so cold where you guys were. Mike, what fucking temperature did it get down to? Like probably what, 18 degrees?
Yeah, it was at least in the 20s, low 20s. It could be as low as the 18s, 19s. Yeah. 100%. I mean, I experienced stuff that I never experienced before as far as weapon problems in the field out there. Like when we first, I think that morning, it was really cold and snowing. And then it warmed up a little bit in the afternoon and it rained on us. Mm-hmm. Ice melted from the trees, dripped on our equipment, whatnot. And then it got cold that night. So all that moisture froze on our rifles. And mine in particular, I'm sure this happened to a lot of other guys I was talking to. Any little toggle, button, lever, knob, any of that stuff that was on your rifle, freaking frozen solid. Like my charging handle, head and mortar open, magazine catch, do no good, not going in at all. What was it? Forward assist not working whatsoever. What else? Dust cover. You pull that charging handle to the rear, dust cover goes just like barely freaking open. It's like, oh, that's gonna be a malfunction for sure if you crack off a round. That ain't gonna fly. Just every little control on the, like, even the freaking safety, try to flip the safety off and it's like, no, it
wasn't going at all. It was freaking frozen, man. I remember my magazine would not seat. I had to do it a few times. Tommy Gunn says, so Tommy Gunn was in the Canadian military for a long time. So he was saying that he, if he had caught our pre-deployment live stream that we were talking about Winter Forge, me and DJ, he could have added some really good stuff. So Tommy, if you have anything to add, we were out there. Mike, for those of you guys who missed it, Mike's joining us today. Mike was my instructor in the Warrior Basic course. He's a very accomplished tactician, so to speak, as well as self-defense. I'm going to go ahead and say it, man. Self-defense expert, at least in the field of grappling. So he also has a YouTube channel, Small Team Supply, where they really get into the nuts and bolts about firearms and different, really cool, oddball stuff about machining firearms and automatic, whatever. Just, you'll have to go check it out. But when you do, subscribe. So if you guys have any questions for Mike, throw them down in the chat. We'll get to them. Of course, any pressing questions, the super chat is available. If you give me money, I will get to your question right away. But for those of you out there who missed it, that's who's on right now. Mike Klein, really a solid friend of mine and fucking funny guy too. So yeah, we were talking about how my magazine wouldn't see, your freaking safety was froze up, your charging handle wasn't working. What other problems did you run into out there as far as specifically weapons related?
Well, the first thing is I want to ask you, how did you solve those problems? Because I might have came up with a different solution. How did you solve those problems?
I solved them like a fucking caveman and just did it by brute force. I just kept tapping the mag, and then the charging handle at first was frozen. So I just I jimmied it. I didn't want to force it, but I just slid it back, and then finally I got it to release. So
okay. Mine, I had a freaking mortar that charging handle open. The magazine catch, I actually took a magazine out of my pouch there because I tried just pressing with my thumb as hard as I can. So I felt like, well, I need a tool to really jam that thing in there. No go. It was freaking solid. So what I did was I just kind of asked around, like, hey, does anyone have a lighter or something? Because I didn't have one. And one guy handed me one, and I just kind of direct flame to freaking all those little things until they freed up. And surprisingly, it really didn't take that much heat in order to free them up. Like I was expecting I was gonna burn my freaking hand or something after I heated up some of these parts, and no, it's but then again, you know, I heated a little bit, tested, heated a little bit, tested, and it was actually surprising how little heat I actually needed in order to get that rifle back up and going again.
Yeah, and Tommy Gunn brings up a good point about moisture discipline and proper lubrication. How important was it, man, like to leave your weapon outside of the heated tent?
Yeah, that was one of the big points the instructors there were talking about is, you know, ours was, I guess, a special case in that there was so much freaking moisture, you know, in the field, and then the conditions changed on us. But in a standard cold weather environment, you know, guys are in the tent, they're breathing, the humidity is getting up there in the tent, and then you bring your rifle in there, and cold freaking rifle going in a humid environment, it just starts sweating. And if you go and you take that rifle immediately back out in the cold, it's all going to turn to ice. So
Mm-hmm.
you can really mess your equipment up doing that. And it's not just rifles, it's other stuff too, optics, radios, any number of equipment that you don't want to freaking have a, you know, coating of ice on.
And we didn't have that problem the first night because we weren't in the freaking hot tent. It would have been really nice to sleep in there, but they had us sleeping in what were those shelters called?
They're called Von Rex,
Yes.
and what they are is they're the old GI pup tents, sides of those, and you kind of put them together. So you take like two, like four shelter halves in total that would make two pup tents. But instead of making pup tents, you make like a little square that you get a fire team in, you know, 3 to 4 guys in there. As a
And
shelter.
that
So you only
shit,
got like half shelter per guy, but you got an open space, and we built a little fire in there. That was terrible because the wood was all wet, and eyes are burning, breathing
yeah.
smoke. You know, I mean, it was arguably worse having that freaking
Yeah.
smoke fest in there
I would have
than it
honestly
was
just
just being
rather
cold.
slept in my fucking triple layer bag in the cold than fucking breathing in all that smoke, man. It was
Yeah,
terrible. And it
yeah.
was those Von Ruck shelters, I never want to see one again in my life. It's like you're in the open air. There's like literally nothing. It's like useless.
Dude, I think, you know, I want to give it another chance, but I think if you had some freaking good dry wood, uh, or maybe you had a freaking heater that you could put right in the center of that thing, maybe it would be worth it then. But like getting like wet wood with freaking ice on it, and you know, green wood, full moisture, never been dried out, and you're trying to burn with that, you know, it is a freaking smoke show. I mean, it is the same as if you're like, I'm just gonna get a pile of leaves and light that on fire and sleep right next to that.
Dude, it was ridiculous, man. Oh fuck. Jen says that sounds dirty, moisture discipline and proper lubrication. Get your mind out of the gutter, Jen. Um, yeah, so Tommy was saying you can make an igloo. We didn't have that much snow, unfortunately. A
Yeah,
candle to keep you
this was
alive.
cold wet conditions, not cold dry, and so there wasn't a lot of accumulation. I mean, we maybe had an inch, arguably at most, out there.
And I want to get into this a little bit for the guys and girls out there who might be interested in getting some cold weather training. Is, the first day up until what, 7 or 8 p.m., it was all classroom work. Now, the first, what do you say, the first 2, 3 hours maybe was inside a tent in the classroom, learning about
Yeah,
different types of cold, wet, and, dry, cold, and all of that,
and
like learning
Arctic
about
and all
how to
that stuff.
layer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the rest of it was all out in the field, learning about how to build shelter, how to, what else did we do? How to set up tents, build shelters, eat, nutrition, things like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and how to use a stove properly, different types of stoves,
Mm-hmm.
and that type of stuff. So it was really cool. And then from 7 or 8 p.m. until about 7 or 8 p.m. the next day, it was a 24-hour field training exercise for live, well, not live rounds, obviously,
It
Miles
was
system.
force on force
Force on force.
blanks. You
Yeah.
know, it was sparring.
And Mike, because you can definitely explain this better than me. Explain to the
Yeah.
guys and girls out there the Miles system. What is this?
So MILES stands for Multiple Integrated Laser Engagement Systems. And this is something that's been in play. The US Army has been using this maybe since the 70s. I know since the 80s because I got some equipment that has, 1980s dates on it. And what it is the participants wear a series of sensors on their torso, front and back, and then around their head. And these detect the information that what they call the small arms transmitter, or SAT, which is mounted on your rifle, emits when it's triggered from firing a blank. So what you got is your real AR-15 rifles out there in the field with blank finder adapters and M200 blanks. And you have these lasers that are mounted onto your real rifle barrel. And when you crack off a blank, it detects that. Some do it through sound, some do it through flash, some do both. And when it detects that, it emits a laser beam. And that laser beam actually sends an encoded message. It sends all kinds of stuff. Who fired that round? What type of round was it? Was it small arms? Was it a heavy machine gun? Was it a tank? Was it an aircraft missile? Whatever. So it includes that information, and then it also includes the information of when it fired that round. So it knows how to do, if it needs to do any like bullet drop compensation or anything like that. It's able to kind of figure that out to some degree. So there's a lot of stuff going on. One of the cool things with that also is that encoded message takes a period of time to be delivered to the target. And how the system's set up is, if it only receives part of that information, it considers that a near miss, where you get a little different tone and the other participant knows he's under fire, but he's not killed. If you get the entire encoded message, then that player's killed. But the cool thing is this system where there's a duration involved, it really prioritizes the marksmanship skill of follow through. So you fire your shot and you stay on target as long as you possibly can. And so it actually helps build, or rewards, I should say, good marksmanship fundamentals.
Miles system is the best thing I could possibly think of that I've seen, at least so far, for longer range force on force. I mean, you can't do it with sim rounds. Paintballs you can't do the same level of engagement, the same distance of engagement with paintballs either. It's just far superior to anything else. Tommy Gunn is saying they still use it in Canada. Do we still use the Miles system? You said that they are.
Oh yeah.
Using
Oh yeah, for sure. We're still using Miles. Our allies are still using Miles. Now they're always looking at, something better out there. And there's been upgrades over the years as well. Different generations of it. But essentially it's been unchanged as far as how it operates since it was introduced. But yeah, you're absolutely right. One of the nice benefits of Miles, and I'm talking from the perspective of a rifleman. I mean, I haven't used Miles in conjunction with vehicles and tanks and aircraft and all that, like some of you veterans I'm sure have. But for me, I haven't. But just in the rifleman aspect of it, the thing that's, I think, best about it is you actually can get those realistic rifle engagement distances. There's not a time that I, at least in Missouri, can think to myself, oh, those guys are so far, they're out of my ability to engage them.
Mhm.
If I see them, I can engage them with within my AO and with the system. So, I've actually scored Miles kills out to, 450, 500 yards at a number of events. It's not something you can do every freaking time. But when that opportunity arises, it's available if you got the skills to capitalize on that, which is really cool. There's not a lot of other systems that can do that. Now, the kind of thing that the Miles doesn't do best is, up close engagements. So when you're, under say 15, 20 meters, maybe some of those other systems could perform better, like the airsoft paintball, whatever, simunitions. Those might actually, work a little bit better because, you can target more limbs and everything, and maybe penetrate some light veg or whatever. Not to say Miles can't penetrate light veg. It just depends on how dense you're shooting into.
And so you also don't have to worry, like Miles will calculate for bullet drop and stuff like that as well, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of a hokey-ish calculation. Like, so for example, after like 500 yards, so let me back up a little bit. How the laser emitter works is it doesn't shoot just a, hyper focused laser beam. It's pretty focused, but it actually has a little bit of dispersion in there. It kind of shoots a grid, like a little square grid at your target. And it knows about how far you're shooting based off of the time it takes a laser beam to get to the other combatant. And then what it does is, if it takes a certain duration, it's like, well, okay, this is probably the distance. And so I got this grid pattern, and it connected with X amount of sensors. The grid pattern got larger, so it should have, covered more of that. So it would kind of know if you're centered up on your target or not, so to speak. And then it would basically discard some of those sensors and say, we're not going to worry about that. And then that's going to be a near miss, or it's going to say, yeah, you went ahead and got the guy. So it like I said, after 500 meters, it starts doing some calculations that I'm not 100% dialed in on, but it does do some additional stuff. But under that, yeah, it's just point of aim, point, you don't have to worry about compensation. You just put the dot or the iron sights on your target and let them have it.
You also recently acquired some Miles gear that can actually attach to vehicles. Am I correct?
Yeah, so I gotta look into that a little bit more, but yeah, it looks like a universal system in that you can fit it to any number of different things, bunkers, structures, vehicles, and you can kind of tell it what, or program in it what that object is, so that it'll know what kind of equipment would be required in order to knock it out.
I can't wait for the day where we get some kind of like AT4s or laws in the mix, man. That would be
Yeah,
sick.
they're out there, man. They're out there.
So how many FTXs have you done in total? Any idea?
Oh man. I don't really remember offhand. I would say upwards of 10, maybe more.
Damn, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, your shit. Like, obviously, you being an instructor, you have to. And so with One Shepherd, once you become cadre, if I'm correct, they put you through even more research and training. Like, you have to read a lot on your own, and then it seems like you have to give lectures on different topics that they assign you. And you're really, so you go through, your 6 semesters and however many more FTXs or whatever you want to do. And then if you decide you want to keep learning about this stuff, you become like a probationary cadre, correct?
Yeah, kind of like that, kind of like an instructor in training. And that's what they call the green hat instructors. And they have to perform some additional tasks, learn kind of how to teach, and then learn how to perform a lot of the functions of an instructor. Now, there's actually 2 tracks. There's, if you have prior combat arms experience, there's a kind of a more fast track system for you guys. If you're a civilian and the majority of your training is through this program, it's a little bit slower track in order to get you up to speed. Because there's definitely things that you haven't seen or experienced where you may have picked up if you were prior service and combat arms specifically.
Like Brent 0311 is now, cadre there, and he obviously was fast tracked pretty quickly. He came to 1 or 2 semesters, and then now he's a black hat.
Well, he did the green hat program, and he went through there and he kind of learned how we teach and things of that nature. But as far as having to go through the entirety of the program in order to be selected for the instructor development program, he got a little bit more fast track in that, because he already had the force on force experience and the TTPs, and everything due to his profession.
And he is a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, just so everyone, I believe he's still a gunnery, right?
I'm not sure. He got promoted a few times since I've known him, and I don't really keep super close track of what his current rank is, but he's
last time I checked. He's a badass dude. Jen, Winter Forge, not Fortage, Winter Forge. Jen can't really speak good English sometimes, even though she's American. I was picking out some stuff before I came, and we were looking at like camping chairs, and there was this one camouflage one, right? She goes, "Oh, babe, there's a Cameo." And I'm like, "What? Cameo? It's Cameo." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Cameo? What? Who? Look at it. It's that Cameo." You go, "Oh, camo." I don't know. She's just goofy as shit.
Well, I tell you what, if I went to the East Coast or West Coast, they probably wouldn't be sure I was speaking English either.
Let me ask you this. If something's on the roof, is it on the roof or is it on the roof?
I'd say roof.
Okay. If you're digging up a root, or are you digging up a rut?
I'd say root.
All right. So we're on the same page there.
I'm Midwest. I'm a Midwesterner.
But I thought that was a Midwest thing. No, like roof and rut. Maybe not.
I don't know.
I heard a couple of guys say that. Like,
do you say soda, pop, Coke,
soda,
bubbly, or whatever?
I know. Soda? So you guys say pop, right?
No, soda.
Soda. Oh, okay. Minneapolis. No, Minnesota, they say pop. In the South, they say Coke. And I guess all the normal people say soda.
Yeah, there's another one someone was telling me about. It was something weird, like bubbly or bubbler. I don't know. It's weird. I think there's another one out there. I'm not 100% sure.
These fucking rednecks out there, man. So, Mike, tell us more about your YouTube channel, man. I mean, for the guys who haven't checked it out yet, like, what is your specialty? What are you guys doing out there?
I don't know, man. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's all over the place, but I'm kind of showing stuff that I'm interested in at the time. So I got some 3D printed AR-15 stuff on there. I got a flashlight review. I got a interview with Dr. Christopher Larson. I got I don't know, a lot of stuff on like binary triggers and other quick semi-auto triggers, and just stuff I'm thinking about talking about. It's going to be firearms or infantry related stuff.
It's literally right up everyone's alley on this channel. Like, you guys who come in, especially you guys who crosstalk about different oddball calibers and firearms, like, this is literally your channel over here. So, and I know a couple of you guys really love the 3D printed shit. So, and actually, Mike, on the 40th anniversary, you had this really cool 3D printed Was it an upper or a lower?
That was a lower. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Those, yeah.
yeah.
I brought two of them out there. That's actually if you go check out my YouTube channel, you can actually see kind of the development cycle of that project. And that's what I brought out there to the 40th anniversary. And there's two guys I actually issued those out to. One was prior service infantry, and he was a little bit more current Army. And then there was another guy there that had the honor of issuing out a lower two that was prior service Vietnam infantry. So
Wow.
so they both got some experience with it, and I got some feedback from it as well. So that was really great stuff.
DJ, what's going on, man? DJ's in the house. You know DJ. He was
Yeah,
at the Forge with us. So
yeah, man.
it's really so. All right, Tommy Gunn is saying 3D print SKS lowers CR30 print mill. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what the SKS is, but any idea CR30 print mill?
Creality 30, is that the one with the belt? Is that the
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
I think that's the
Tommy.
one with the belt, like a treadmill looking thing.
Okay.
Is that
And
right?
yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it lags about a minute in between when they type it in and when it comes up. The weapon you were running at Windsor Forge, was that
Yeah.
something you made or was that
Yeah. That's one that obviously I didn't like machine the entire rifle in my basement, but but I did do some machining work on it. I had an M60 bipod that I adapted to that barrel, and then it had, and then I assembled, did all the assembly work and refinished it, and the ports that I machined and all that. So
yeah.
that's actually one of my LSWs, or light support weapons. That particular one is one I use for training, kind of like for product development and for just learning more skills, learning more things, process improvement, product improvement, and then becoming more proficient and knowledgeable of the platform.
Now that final ambush that happened, guys, I'll make this quick, but just to give you some background, on the last couple hours of the FTX, the field training exercise, there was an enemy patrol base. The op for the opposing force had their patrol base set up at a different place far away. So we received intelligence of where roughly it might be, and to go and destroy their communications equipment that they had. So we eventually found their patrol base, but right before we had gotten there, they left. Whether it was to step up on a patrol, or I think they had stepped off on a patrol, and they just weren't there. Although it looked to me like they vanished because they still had their fires going and everything, and there was gear like laying around. So I think they had like been wise to the fact that we were coming and just disappeared. And as we were heading back to our patrol base, they ambushed us on the way out. Now, I got hit pretty much immediately, unfortunately. Like within the first 10 seconds, I went down. And I heard somewhere from a little bird that you had problems with the LSW. What happened?
Okay, so I was running a Magpul D60 drum that event, and I had previously tried to field test that product before, and I've had mixed success with it on the range. I had some initial success, and then I had a catastrophic jam and this with M200 blanks. I personally haven't experienced any issues with ball ammunition. But with blanks, it's been touch and go. But recently here, I heard some guys, Christopher Larson, Les, and Brent, talking about the how the D60 wasn't serviceable with M200 blank. So that kind of put a fire in my belly to tear into it, see what's going on, see if maybe I can improve the design a little bit. And I kind of, so I tore it all apart with that in mind, and I was looking at it and I'm like, you know what, this thing should, in theory, from what I'm looking at here, it should work. So I just put it all back together and I loaded it up, and I fired, a couple bursts out of it, and all good. So I topped it off again, did the same, all good. And then I got my little camera out and dumped the whole thing, and it was all good. And then I loaded up again and dumped it again, and it was all good. And and then I loaded up again, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take this to Winter Forge, see what happens. Failed.
Man, isn't that the way the ball bounces though, dude? Like just when you think you got it, you don't got it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like women sometimes. So your channel's blown up lately, man. I mean, you've got an influx of subscribers. What do you accredit that to? Is there a specific video you can point to and say that was the one?
Well, actually, my most successful video, I think, was the very first video I released, and that was on the binary triggers, specifically Foztech versus Franklin Armory, and it just took a little bit for it to get some traction there. Also, quite recently, I just did a live stream with Brent 0331. And I just got a ton of subscribers here just the other day from that. So, I'm still not, at the 1,000 subscriber mark, but I'm quickly approaching that.
Oh, you'll get there. You'll get there real fast, man. It's the content that you put out is serious, and it's not like this BS stuff that you have from a lot of these different channels. Some of these things are all the same, right? Like it's all the same, like guy with a gun at the range and like some like expensive camouflage, but you're actually doing real shit, which is like a little bit different. And not to mention the 3D printed and all that. It's fascinating stuff. I want to switch.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Continue.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm still learning. This is my disclaimer here. I'm still learning, my editing and all that. I know some guys can really whip out a fantastic visual video with, heart thumping music and all this stuff. I'm not there yet, but the content I got, I think it's pretty good as far as the, information that I'm providing to folks.
You and I are in the same boat, man. Now I've been doing this. I don't even remember when I started it, but for a few years, and I just never bothered to learn anything like real editing and the music and this. Like I fuck around with it and I try to make it better, but it's the information we're putting out, right? Like I really try to keep it at that, and not worry as much about how many subscribers, but rather the quality of the instruction that I'm giving out. That's the most important thing to me. So let's talk tactics, right here, right now, real quick, man. You came up to me. I was standing sentry, and you said some really interesting shit. You go, if we were to be attacked, or if you were a small force of, say, 5 men, how would you attack a larger force's patrol base or fortifications?
Yeah, in particular, ours.
Exactly. Yeah. And I gave my answer. I said, I'd probably do something in the lines of sending a probing force to one side and do some kind of an L-shaped ambush-esque type thing and come in from the rear. And to which you replied, well, that's exactly what I would do. Instead of the L-shaped ambush, you would come more to the side. You gave a really good analogy about stepping to the side in boxing and striking from an angle. I don't know if you remember exactly what you said, but can you kind of reiterate to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I said L-shape's pretty good. I mean, I actually had to work on L-shape personally because I came from a rifle marksmanship background where you're taught to shoot at targets right in front of you, eyes locked, shooting people in the face, so to speak. And what I realized in doing this training is you don't want to be shooting people in the face. That's how you get that's how you get schwacked, right? You want to maneuver. Maybe you shoot at people to their face, to pin them down, whatever. But it's a tricky game when you're head on with people, right? So the money place is to be outside the peripheral vision, but not so far back to where you can get fratricited. So L shape's great. I think L shape's fantastic, but I like going just a little bit extra, just outside the periphery, and attack from there.
So in that case, like, let's say we've got, I'm sure there's no sensitive information here. Let's say we've got our fortification here, right? We've got our probing force coming probably right from the side, just harassing us with small arms fire, right? Making everyone think, oh shit, they're here. Let's repel them on this side. Meanwhile, you've got the force sneaking out. You wouldn't come with this, the rest of your men
90.
at a 90. You would come more at this angle here.
Yeah, at a diagonal.
Diagonal angle. Okay. Why diagonal as opposed to straight from behind in their 6 o'clock?
Because you get fratricided. You guys are shooting into each other.
Sure.
And you don't want that.
It's an interesting concept to talk about military tactics and explain it in the way of martial arts or hand-to-hand combat. But it really is the best analogy that we could make. Or, like a concealed carry platform, right? Like you never want to just draw and stay where you are, right? I'm sure we're all aware on this channel that like you want to step offline and angle on the guy, right? So same analogy when it comes to attacking a fixed position.
Yeah, there's also some practicality too. Like, for example, if like I always say to myself when I'm in a flanking element, I recognize about how far I need to run to be at 90 with them, and I always double that. And in doubling it, worst case scenario, I come in at a 90, which isn't terrible. What's terrible is falling short and coming in at like a 45, and
Okay.
where your maneuver element isn't really doing a whole lot of good. You can effectively, the enemy can effectively engage both forces at the same time. And that's what you really want to do with your maneuver element, is put the enemy in a position where they cannot address both elements simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what was your favorite like pipeline of instruction? Now, guys, at One Shepherd, every semester is different. Like the 40th anniversary was remind me, it was area defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I know subsequent one that I had done was raids, and then there's ones on just any topic of tactics. How do I say this, Mike?
It's every there's a 6 semester rotation that the program goes through, so you can get a new tactic. You get three different things. You get the primary offensive tactic, you get a defensive tactic, and you get an enabling tactic. And you get that each semester you go out. The issue is if you don't come out to a semester, if you miss a semester, then you're gonna have to wait for that rotation to come back around for you to pick up that experience.
Yeah, and if one that you've already done is circling back around, you might just want to wait it out and go to the other ones, I would assume. So what one is your favorite if you had to choose?
It's hard. It's hard to choose, really, because if you're in the game just for the knowledge, so to speak, you don't really want to short yourself and just go for one that a little bit more action packed or whatever. So I hate to really encourage someone to choose one over another. I really think you should just come out and give whatever, as much as you can.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with that. I think that whatever semester you can make it. It's well worth your time. For somebody like myself, who I don't really study like tactics other than coming to One Shepherd, the best way to learn, I think, is by doing. right? So
Hmm.
you learn all week and then you go and do it, which was it's a really amazing program. And this isn't a One Shepherd commercial, but guys, get your ass over there. Mike, what are you doing with yourself otherwise? I mean, your business is actually doing pretty freaking well right now, from what I understand. Are you able to keep up with order flow?
Yeah. So, I had a pretty significant back order for a while, almost a year, because of the election cycle. I just wasn't able to secure parts. I needed to get these products into folks' hands, and that just kind of built up, built up, built up. Finally, got those parts in. Was able to satisfy those orders, and right now I got a pretty short lead time. If a fellow wanted a custom upper from me, turnaround is about a week, and then allow for shipping depending on where you're at.
How do we find your products and things like that? How do we
So right now, since everything is made to order, I don't have a website or anything going on. I plan to at some point have some like stocked items, but for right now, you kind of get the luxury of being able to pick and choose exactly what you want. You can message me on Facebook. It's Klein Machining LLC, and you can also email me at kleinmachiningllc@gmail.com, and we'll talk you through the various options that are available as far as what bipod you want, barrel length, if you want the gas block pinned in place or whatever. And, we can kind of suss through it. And then I can give you a quote where you can, with that little uh, link that you can, pay by credit card if everything looks good and that's what you want.
so might understand that no matter what I want, you can get it. You can get it to me
Well, like I
within.
said, things are kind of crazy right now. I mean, I got some parts in stock. If you want a part that's not really available, you might have to wait a little bit. But yeah, I can probably source it.
That's what's up, man. So all right, I have a question for you.
Hmm.
What do you think about all of this Ukraine stuff happening, man? You think Putin's going to fucking invade Ukraine, or do you think he's gonna bitch out?
I don't know, man. I honestly haven't been following that probably as close as I should, just because I've been focused in on the here and now, what's going on in my life. I recently, I was working close to 100 to 120 hours a week for the past 2 years since all the COVID stuff hit, because the job I was employed in was just slammed with orders, and they didn't have the manpower really, so we were working 60 to 80-hour weeks there. And then I was trying to get my own business going, and I was working another 20 to 40-hour week at home. So a lot of stuff kind of fell by the wayside as far as that goes, especially, global politics, global events, things of that nature, because, something had to give somewhere.
Yeah.
And that was one of the places it gave.
Yeah, and I don't blame you at all, Dan, but let me ask you this. If Putin invaded and they were in dire straits in Ukraine, would you go over and fight, or are you gonna say go fight your own war?
Yeah, so it's I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I know there's a lot of Ukrainians that are pro Russia still. Obviously they got their sympathizers over there, and then they got some that want to be free and independent. Um, like I said, I know there's some also geostrategic aspects to the location of Russian assets in regards to NATO, if that's an issue or whatnot. Um, the truth of it is, like I said, I haven't been really been too spun up on it. So I hate
I
to
can't blame you, man. You're over there freaking like trying to fulfill orders, and that's got to be a full time plus gig right now. So
yeah.
you actually, I hope you don't mind me saying this. I don't think you will. You actually left a different machining job to do this full time,
Yeah. So I was a manufacturer, you know, I was a engineer in industrial manufacturing for close to 15 years, 14 and a half years. And then prior to that, I worked, I did an internship as a industrial maintenance. And then I have an agriculture, industrial agriculture background as a kid growing up, you know, with my dad and all that. So I've been working on machining or, you know, tinkering and whatnot for the entirety of my life, in one capacity or another. So, you know, it wasn't actually a big leap for me to start doing some machining and manufacturing on the side because I already had such a wealth of knowledge in that regard.
Yeah, and so this is a guy here who's been machining his whole life, and so now to transition into doing firearms related material, it really is no thing for you. You do it
Yeah,
very
no,
well.
I mean, dude, I was putting together, you know, chopped up AK-47s when I was 16 years old. I was, you know, I mean, really, dude, I was buying them parts kits for $60 pop. And I was buying some 80% receiver flats, whatever. And I was bending them up. I was heat treating them. I was welding rails. I was riveting them together, making my own riveting tools, all that stuff. You know, I was taking SKSs and converting them to accept AK-47 magazines. I was taking like Winchester 1300 shotguns and converting them to pistol grip, and not talking about taking a pistol grip stock and slapping on the back, but taking the trigger mechanism out of it, shifting the grip, you know, 4 inches forward, so you don't have that wasted space between the loading mechanism and the trigger. So I moved the whole trigger assembly forward and everything. So, you know, I've been getting very involved with firearm modification and firearm tinkering the entirety of my life. So this isn't a new thing for me in that regards.
Well, I gotta say, man, I've messed with some of your stuff, and you do a very, very good job at it. So,
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I
excited,
appreciate it. You
excited.
know, those skills weren't developed overnight. I'll tell you that. So,
Yeah,
you know, and a little bit of a learning curve for me. In that, you know, when I was a kid, you know, I remember building a steel lever action for my Daisy Red Ryder BB gun, and I used a you know, a drill press and a metal file. I took my you know sheet of steel and drilled a bunch of consecutive holes and knocked it out with a hammer. And then I got my freaking metal file in there and I was metal filing it away to smooth it all out and everything. So using a drill press, turning that into a lathe, you got a little pin you need to make, you chuck that up in your drill press, turn her on, get your little metal file up there, you know, shaving her down,
man.
you know, you know, so I've been making do with what I had available for a very long time. And, you know, getting into industrial tools, purpose-built tools, has simplified the process quite a bit, and has afforded me a level of precision that wasn't always available to me the entirety of my life.
I have a question about that, but first to address something here, yeah, Gutter Fighting Secrets is still free to join, guys. If you want to go ahead and join right now and get in on the ground floor of this really awesome project that we have, you're more than welcome to. But at some point now soon, we're going to be cutting that off and starting to charge for memberships. So get in there, get your email address in the system. We don't sell your information. We never give it out anywhere. It's all confidential, literally just between you and me. And you will receive an email when we launch a new product. Sometimes, most of the time, not. And then you will always receive an email when a free blog comes out written by myself or DJ, or one of the many other experts that we have working with us. So it is still free to join. Feel free to go ahead and sign up. I don't plug it too hard because, frankly, I want more people to pay for it. But while you have the chance, if I were you guys, I would put your email address. I know most of you already have. Mike, what kind of machines are we talking about here? Because I mean, I know you've got quite the operation going at this point. You've actually got a whole shop going. Am I correct?
Yeah. So, you know, right now I got multiple 3D printers. I got a laser engraver. I got a surface grinder, arbor press, Bridgeport mill, South Bend lathe, and horizontal, vertical bandsaw, a MIG, TIG welder, cutting torch, all these. I got all these tools, but they're generally like shop tools, machine shop tools. At some point, hopefully sooner than later, I'll get some CNC stuff. And that's what I've been doing professionally for, 14 and a half years, was running CNC machines. So I got a body of knowledge in that as well. It's just, I got to build up the capital in order to acquire that machinery.
I know how that goes, man. Building up the capital, and it's what we're doing at GFS right now too, is building up the capital to launch better products, to put better material out there. I mean, guys love what you and I respectively do on YouTube. So support us, and we will do better than what we're doing now. That's straight up. If you place an order with Mike, that literally not only helps you get a good product that you want, that literally also helps you double, because you get awesome content on the YouTube channel as well. Like, every time that you fund his project, he's going to put better content out there. He's going to get a better camera. He's going to get better at editing. He's going to do 10 times better videos, and his videos are already great. So it's literally a win-win, and it's just, it's really a no lose situation. So
yeah, and honestly, I really appreciate any support I get from my clients, because right now I'm in this with both feet. This is how I feed my family, and it means a lot to me. So and I want to make you guys as happy as you possibly can with products I put out. So I really wanted to be win-win for both of us, and like Will was saying, I'm just going to roll whatever I can back into the business, and I'm going to get whatever machinery, equipment, whatever that will afford me more and more capabilities in the future. So, if you think I'm doing cool stuff now, just wait.
Yes. And you said something that I really, before we get to the comments here, you said something I really like. I just want to make you guys happy. That's your ultimate goal here. You and I were talking at 40th anniversary at One Shepherd, and you were like, dude, like, it's more about like giving my customers what they want. Like, if they have a special request, I will fulfill it. It's not about the money. Now, obviously, like you said, you're feeding your family with this business, but it's not about the money. It's about making awesome freaking products that people love, and it brings a huge smile on their face when it comes to them. So
yeah, it's a big deal to me. I mean, like, like I said, I worked for a big corporate entity for a big chunk of my life now. And I'll tell you what, completing a project or whatever for them, it's not very fulfilling, but for completing a project for one of you guys, it means a lot more to me. I get a lot more out of it. And I feel a lot better, with life in general. So, it doesn't just help me financially. It also helps me like morally, morale wise, so to speak.
of course, man, every time I get an order, I get a big smile on my face.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling. And not to mention the fact that you're helping somebody. Actually, Tommy Gunn wants to know, where do I place an order with Mike to do some manufacturing?
Yeah, man, just reach out to me on Facebook, Klein Machining LLC, or send me an email, kleinmachiningllc@gmail.com.
Klein Machining LLC@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to make some Type 81 quad rails here in Canada. So not sure if he wants to make them or buy them, but it sounds to me like he's going to get in touch with you. So
okay.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'll let you guys know this too. Like, right now, some of these things is kind of beyond my manufacturing capabilities. So if that's the case, I'll just let you know. But I've done a lot of little special projects here and there. But my bread and butter, so to speak, has been the uppers with a bipod mounted barrel mounted bipods.
I know I was talking with two separate guys last time who I don't know if they were placing orders or had placed an order with you, but they were very excited about these bipod systems that you have.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I really think, I didn't necessarily, how do you say it? I'm kind of like, reinventing the wheel, so to speak. There's been people in the past that have brought these kind of things to market, but kind of since abandoned them. But I think abandoned them unnecessarily. Like, they actually had a lot of merit to them. It's just that a lot of people, Americans in general, like I talked about my rifle marksmanship background, right? So if you got a lot of experience at just the square range, so to speak, it kind of shapes what you think you need in equipment. But like you're finding out too, once you get in the field, and especially with force engagements, things change, and what you prioritize as far as equipment changes as opposed to what you think the fight's going to be and what you're seeing the fight is.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. And the same goes for like what you and I were talking about with just like the layers and stuff like that. Like, oh shit, like I should have brought more layers. I was freezing my ass off out there. Or, you know, I really need, a different canteen because this one was freezing or whatever it was. Like you get out there, you train, then you find out more. Same thing with the equipment, same thing with the gear or with the firearms rather. You find out, well, this, this is catching here, this is doing this. And I'm not a firearms expert myself, but I know enough about them to know that different environments will affect them differently, and different types of firearms will operate differently in different situations. And trade with Canada, maybe ITAR license. So I don't know. Mike might know more about the ITAR thing than me.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm doing all the firearm stuff just here in the United States. I'm not shipping overseas. I'm not shipping to other countries or anything right now, just because I don't want to run afoul of the federal government.
Yeah. You can ship different projects. You just can't ship anything firearms.
Yeah, yeah, correct. I don't want to do any.
No lowers.
I don't want to be asking the State Department for permission right now.
Yeah, not yet at least.
Yeah, not yet at least. Yeah.
The new product, yeah. So the new product at our website, Winning the Game. So Winning the Game is one of our dating products. I know some of you guys out there love it, some hate it, but for the person who wanted to know about Winning the Game, yeah, it's all about how to set up your dating profile to maximize your success on dating, online dating sites. So we all know, like, I'm big on going out there and meeting chicks in person, but I say supplement that with meeting them online, right? It's like me and Mike were just talking about. You need to practice this stuff, whether it's martial arts or whether it's the Venusian arts, like tens of thousands of hours, like to get good at it. It's just the fact. So if you're only going out there meeting like one or two chicks a week, it's going to take you years and years and years to get really good at just automatically picking up chicks or whatever you want to do. But if you're supplementing that and making like 3 or 4 dates a week online and meeting chicks in person, it becomes who you are. And you become James Bond about it. And you can just automatically walk up to any chick. And even if you're not trying to get her out on a date, you can still charm them. And so that's what we're doing, is we're teaching you how to set up your dating profile in a way that chicks will want to talk to you and they'll want to match with you. And I've had a lot of success doing that. So this is me passing it on. It's like $75 right now, which is a freaking steal. So if you guys are interested in that, go to fightingsecrets.com, go check it out. But I know there's some other really great comments here. DJ says, I was loving the LSW LAR you had in the field, Mike. That thing's a proper beast.
Thanks, brother. Yeah. Appreciate it.
So they're talking about Russia. We're talking about China. We're talking about Let's Go Brandon. Guardius says, not seduction again. Guardius hates the seduction stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, it's all over the place here on this channel. And just like DJ's channel, just like your channel, we touch on a lot of different subjects. Is there anything besides machining firearms that you really just love talking about, man?
Well, light infantry stuff. I mean, like I said, I didn't do prior service or anything, but I got a lot of friends, and I'm a practitioner of it. So
A
I
very,
enjoy that.
very wise practitioner about it. I mean, guys, if you have any questions about small unit tactics or about, paramilitary operations or anything like that specifically related to like tactics, throw them out there. Mike's a wealth of information. And not only on here, if you ever want to chat with Mike one-on-one, it's what's the email again, Mike?
Well, if you want to talk about like small unit tactics, whatever, just contact me at smallteamsupply@gmail.com. If you want to talk about machining stuff, contact me at kleinmachiningllc@gmail.com.
Gotcha. Yeah. If you want to fucking buy a product, contact him at Klein Machining. If you want to shoot the shit, contact him at smallteamsupply@gmail.com. Or again, if you want to get in touch with him about making you something very special, kleinmachining@gmail.com. Mike, what's coming down the pipe as far as new products for you guys? Anything specific that you're working
Yeah,
on?
so right now, I was out there Winter Forge. I was just testing my manufacturing prototype of the carry handle. That's an accessory for my barrel pipe odds, but you can actually put that on any number of weapons or whatever that you got out there. So some of the key features with it versus a lot of the other folding carry handles that are on the marketplace already is they're way heavier duty. The materials that are going in this thing are not going to bend and deform on you like some of the inferior products out there. And the other thing is it's a lot lower profile than some of the other carry handles out there, like what Barrett makes and things for some of these other weapon systems. So I'm hoping to have that out shortly, as soon as I possibly can. But like I said, some of that stuff is out of my hands because I'm having to work with some other manufacturers because I don't have the capital equipment to do it on my own.
So, what do you think about like all of this night vision stuff, thermal, infrared stuff? Like, what would you recommend that somebody who hasn't served time in the military is not ultra familiar with this stuff? Like, where can we start? Like, for me, I'll put it to you like this: I'd like to buy some nods. I'd like to buy an IR laser, perhaps. Like, where should I start with this stuff?
So I would start with a flashlight.
Really?
Yeah, I'd start with a flashlight, and I would learn how to use your flashlight in engagements first, because a lot of that, because if you just go right into the high tech, there's going to be a lot of lessons learned that you're going to miss out on, such as the stick and move tactics of using flashlights and fighting at night. And then also, flashlights are actually still a very viable option when you're in a decisive engagement. May not be the best for skirmishing, but when you're in kind of locked in, wolf by the ears, so to speak, a flashlight is an excellent tool to be using still to this day. And the flashlight technology is just getting better and better and better, to where you're not bringing some dim little piece of junk. You're actually being able to blind and affect the enemy. And Surefire has been talking about this for a number of years, about the advantages of putting a person under a blinding white light and the psychological effects of it. So as I see it, using the nods and things like that, where that's going to help you is being able to operate passively, in that, with nods in particular, it helps you maneuver, get around the battle space with a diminished signature. And then with the thermals, allows you enhanced ability to passively do target detection. But right out of the gate, I wouldn't invest a ton of money in that. I would invest it with some experience and walking around the woods at night, and being able to maneuver in that regard. And then also, like I said, do some night fighting with just a flashlight, and then over time you can go ahead and upgrade your equipment and whatnot.
So I had the very similar thought on mine. I purposely not gotten any nods so far, just so I could get used to running in the woods at night with nothing. So you think that was a good call that I haven't?
Yeah,
gotten?
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because the other thing is, strip all the technology away, and what are you left with, so to speak? If you just go in there with that kind of stuff, it's and then you lose it and you have no foundational skills to fall back on, you're kind of at a loss. The other thing is, and I learned this very early on, it's very hard to keep up with in a technological arms race with some of the major players out there, so throwing the best money you could possibly do, you're still going to be at a disadvantage compared to what some possible adversaries are. Now, that being said, there's probably many more. If you have some nods in thermal, you're way ahead of the game. But I would still say, having a good foundational base of just being able to do it with what God gave you, and maybe a flashlight too. That's a very powerful skill set that you can start building right now.
Now, how about using a red light at night? I mean, as far as for being undetectable, you still don't want to use red light as much as possible, right?
So I've heard a lot of things about the red light. One of the things I've heard recently is red light is a, so let me go back to the biology of how the human eye is designed. There's what they call cones in the eyes, and these cones have different receptors that are more susceptible to being able to be used for red light, green light, etc. And the human eyes in particular don't have as many cones for red light. So in the past, you had a flashlight that put out X amount of lumens, and you had a number of lens covers that you slap on the thing. You couldn't actually like dim the flashlight down. So that's the next best thing, is to throw a red lens cover on it. Well, here's the thing with the technology out there and whatnot. It's going to see that red light with the same amount of intensity as any other light that's emitted, but you're not. You're going to see that red light diminished. So a lot of people I hear arguing is, hey, no, don't mess around with the red light. Just get a regular white light and run it way dimmer.
So one thing that I've found is, for just what we're talking about flashlights, is that I don't think I can live without anymore is a headlamp. It's so freaking underrated, man. Like, it's one of those things you wouldn't think about, like a watch and a freaking notepad and a pen, right? Like, it's so essential to have that. Another thing that's just so freaking essential is like a headlamp, especially if you could get one that has a red and a white light on it. Would you agree?
I would actually choose white and IR if you can only choose two, and that would be because of the technology aspect.
Now, so with IR, you can only see it if you have nods or thermal, right?
Well, here's the thing, right? That's generally true. That there's a spectrum, right? That they say, oh, people can only see this and that. Well, there's people out there that can actually see things in a little bit further into the spectrum than other people. So when they say, oh, this is undetectable to the human eye, well, that's maybe true for 99% of the population, but you got to be aware there are some people out there that can see into that spectrum. So
wow, cool. I got the opportunity to see to use some night vision the last time I was out there and see it working in conjunction with an IR laser. And that was a treat to be able to see, because most people don't ever see something like that. For those of you who don't know, the IR laser can only be seen when you have the night vision on, it was really cool. So for the guys and girls out there.
Oh, here's something that's also cool that a lot of you guys may not know. If you take a normal camera, most normal cameras have what they call an IR filter that you could potentially remove, and then you can actually now see that IR light with just a basic camera. I actually did that with one of my not GoPro, it was a Contour camera. I busted out the IR filter and I could see IR light with that camera now. So
that's
so that's be like a digital night vision, so to speak. So there are other devices that can detect that light emission beyond just an analog device like a PVS 14.
like I don't want to take too much of your time. Like if you got to go, just let me know. But I do have a couple more questions for you
Sure,
here.
man.
Um, let's say somebody says, I don't have like the ability to come to One Shepherd or SNS Training Solutions and train. Like I don't have the cash, I don't have the time, it's too far away, right? All valid reasons, like legitimately. So where do they start? Like how do they start learning about this stuff on their
Oh man, it's so easy to just come out. Um,
own?
because it's a big pill to swallow. I mean, I've done a lot of self-study and I've trained with guys that were prior service and whatnot prior to getting into One Shepherd. And I actually got pretty deep into the rifle marksmanship stuff. I actually became a rifle marksmanship instructor with Project Appleseed prior to getting into the force on force adventures. But it's really okay. I do have something. You can get into the depending if you're appropriate age and whatnot. You can go check out your local ROTC programs in college. That's another thing I did is you can actually participate with your local ROTC on campus groups for up to 2 years, or at least at the time that I was in college. That was all you were afforded, but you could do 2 years without having to sign any contracts or commitments, and you'll get some experience in that regard. I don't think it'll be as good, in my opinion, as what you'll get with SNS and One Shepherd, but that's a free avenue for you. Like I said, if that's the right timing in your life to be able to do that.
It's good advice. It really is. And then obviously, you can piece together things from watching, Brand 0331 and channels like that.
Yeah, it's just, I'll tell you this, man. I really see that as supplemental.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult for you to really wrap your brain around what they're talking about without you actually experiencing it first, without having what Doc Larson calls a concrete experience with and that was true for me. I mean, I read all number of light infantry books and whatever, and they're describing this and that, but without having a visual framework for me to, wrap my head around, it just went in, one ear and out the other, so to speak. So it was really hard for that information to be retained and draw the proper conclusions from that information. I'd say, whatever you got to do, I would make it happen to come out and get some real practical experience. And then after you get the practical experience, you can supplement with what Brent got and what other guys got to help build that body of knowledge. But I really feel you have to have some base to be able to build upon. And it's very, very challenging to do without having, some firsthand experience, some practical hands-on experience.
I'm with you 100%, man. I mean, I always try to get this information to guys who want it but are not able to come. But like you said, in all reality, even if you only go through the Warrior Basic course and do a week of training, that's still a week more than you had to begin with.
Yeah.
And yeah, before I came out to One Shepherd, I took James Yeager's small unit tactics course.
Okay.
And it helped for sure. Like it gave me a base of understanding. But after a week of SUT, you still don't know what the fuck you're doing. It takes many, many repetitions of this stuff to really start to learn it.
Yeah.
I'm still not really up to speed myself. I mean, I've done 3 semesters and 4 FTXs, and it's still like I'm still behind the curve as far as everything goes. And you get rusty, right? Like in between, like I'm mixing up my signals, like what is this? Well, I know what this is, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah. You got and how I did it when I was a student going through the program is I would always this would how it would happen to me. I would go do my semester and I would think about it the entirety of the time from when I stepped off, or left the semester to when it came back around. And my brain was constantly chewing on that information, on that experience. And I would ask questions from people that I knew that were, maybe a little bit further along in the program, because that's the other thing. You get a lot of good contacts out of your going out there and meeting these guys, and you kind of chew on their brains, and and also guys in just your peer group, that guys you started off together with, you kind of, iron sharpens iron type thing, and you can get built up way faster than just trying to do it all on your own.
I agree. And there's only very few training academies that you can go to get this information. I know Tactical Response is one of them that does more live fire, One Shepherd, SNS training. And as far as the paramilitary operations, as far as strict small unit tactics, as far as I'm aware, that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know a whole lot outside of organizations that I've already trained in.
I mean, you could join a militia if you're in a state that has one, but that aside,
Yeah,
Mike, I know that you and I both didn't serve in the military prior, but
correct.
we've talked to a lot of guys who have come through who are
Mhm.
either currently in or have been in, and they say that what they got in the military is not like what we do out there. What we do out there is actually, in some respects, way better. Can you echo that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris Larson talks about that quite a bit, and part of that is, the mission of One Shepherd is to teach people, and that's it. And the military's mission is the defense of our nation. So there's a lot of tasks that have to happen, and just making a guy super, super, super sharp at these tactics isn't the only mission and only purpose. So it's hard for them to do as good a job as a organization that is their only role.
Yeah, Tommy Gunn says having a good instructor who is willing to take the time to teach, which is important, and I know that whenever new guys come through, man, if you think that they're going to stick with it, if you see that in them, you always take the time to help them out and explain to them and give them what you got, which is really something unique because not all instructors do that, and so that's pretty cool. So I mean, it was fucking good having you back on, man. I'm gonna have to let you go because I don't want to run too much over and take too much more of your time. But um, can you tell these guys once again, just to reiterate? I mean, your email address for small team supply. If guys want to just shoot the shit and like ask you about tactics or equipment, smallteamsupply@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Guys want to place an order for some cool stuff. That email address again is kleinmachining@gmail.com.
Klein Machining LLC at gmail.com.
Kleinmachining LLC@gmail.com. Guys, we're going to throw those two email addresses down here. Right. Small Team Supply on YouTube is the YouTube channel where you can find a lot of great resources on here. And again, Mike can hook you up with, different contacts out there. He's a very connected guy in the community. So if you do have questions as far as where could I find this or who could I talk to about this, hit him up on either one of those Gmail accounts down here in the link in the description below. And then, as far as everything else, your Facebook page, what's the Facebook page?
That's Klein Machining LLC.
Klein Machining LLC on Facebook. All right, man. Well, until next time, I'll look forward to seeing you. You're going to be at the next One Shepherd or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll be there.
All right, dope. Are you going to be at Alpha or Bravo Company?
Alpha. It's hard for me to leave my roots here in Missouri. At some point in the future, you might see me out in Bravo, but it's easy for me to commit to Missouri.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, so I will most likely be going to Bravo in the spring, but in the fall, I'll definitely be coming back out to Alpha Company. So we don't see each other before, I'll see you. I'll see you then, man.
Okay. Awesome. I'll see you then, bud.
Thanks for coming on, guys. Thanks for coming on, Mike. And guys, please remember until next time that you are your first and last line of defense. And I will see you in the next Tactical Podcast.